Hello, thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to present my two locations of my daycare that I'd be starting up very soon. I have extensive schooling in this daycare industry, and I have some experience, a good 7 years that I like to officially start my own business and look for a location. I have two locations that are in mind. The first one would be in a smaller city of about 33,000 people. And the interesting part about this location is that daycare facility. There's no daycare facility at all in this location. We're looking at parents who are driving into this larger city to drop their kids off for daycare, which is a long commute. So we could see the opportunity that we will capture them in our market if we did use that as a possibility. That is a good benefit of that location. But some risks I see and some things that I see that I don't like too much and I don't see as fitting for the business I would like to make would be the possibility to expand. I think the possibility to expand is a lot smaller here. There's no established cost of how much parents will pay for childcare and daycares that are provided. They've went many years without daycare and childcare. They've pretty much done just babysitters at the moment. And so I think it's not as necessary as this larger city might be. As well as I think that there's a lot of startup renovations that could be in this location, the smaller location, smaller city. There's a lot of startup renovations. It might cost a lot, even though there is an expensive lease. I think that these renovations could damage our possibility to expand in the first year even. It would be probably harder to find workers as well since it is a smaller city and most jobs are already in place. It'll be harder to start this business, I would say. So, given that, I think I'm leaning a lot more towards the larger city. I'm looking at pretty much a market in this larger city of about 150,000 people, and the opportunity is massive since the demand absolutely outweighs the supply on a massive scale. It's a thriving industry in this larger city. We're looking at parents who are on waiting lists to put their kids in daycares, and I think the opportunity to expand is out just blowing out in proportion to the smaller city, since the demand is so high and the price that parents will pay is so massive, and they require this in their daily life to bring their children to daycare. And I think another benefit would be it's very easy to find labor in this city since there's a lot more people. I was looking to partner with a local community college that actually has a daycare program where they're teaching students who are looking for jobs in daycare programs. And this we will find some slightly educated workers who are ready to work and who are old enough to understand how to treat children and how to actually care for them correctly. And another benefit would be that there's no renovations needed other than the child proofing the tables and the building, child proofing it, making sure that the children are safe in this location. But that would be given for both locations. And we're looking at some risks as well, which is a lot less than we'd see in the other location. The There's an expensive lease, which could be a risk, but I think that given the market, I think that it's not even comparable to it's a huge market, and I don't think the risk is going to be as big as it looks on the paper. And there's a excuse me. It's a high cost to train workers properly. I think that's a huge risk, is that the workers need to be trained properly. But I think we can turn this risk into a benefit very easily. I think if we train our workers extensively and make sure they know how to treat for children correctly, we can have this a huge strength of ours instead of a weakness. But all given that, I think that we will probably not be given the most trained or experienced workers, because they're young and not paid a lot, and we really can't afford a huge paycheck for a lot of these workers. Although I think given the training, I think it would be a very important way to make sure that they do know how to properly care for these children. And I've done a market analysis on the area of this populated large populated city of about 150,000 people. The area is likely has a lot of schools, so I would say that'd be a good market to tap into rather than that smaller location in the smaller city. And another potential that I was thinking of is that in this larger city, we would absolutely have the potential to grow as a city. The population might grow. We might see a market cap that is not even comparable to that smaller city because it won't grow in the way that a larger city might grow, especially just 150,000 people. There are so many people who live in cities that just expand out, and we can tap into this market and use this to expand in the future. And so, given that, I did a SWOT analysis on my daycare facility that I like to pursue, and I was gonna cover some great strengths and opportunities that we have, as well as some weaknesses and threats that might come up. So I would say we have an untapped market completely. I mean, it's not capped at all. So we we can expand quickly, we can grow quickly. There's waiting lists for other daycare facilities for the competitors, and I would find that we would fill our seats in the classrooms with 30 to 45 students almost instantly. And I would say we could do this through one of the opportunities that I've been thinking of, which was a marketing plan for when we open. And I would say I want to exactly open on July 31st. The reason given this is because school is starting up again. And I think that the first 8 days from August 1st to August 8th, we will be, I will be myself, will be going to the two closest schools and we'll be marketing directly in a booth where the parents can see because they usually show the activities that the school encompasses. I would be asking the opportunity to set up a booth there and give basically some information on what we do, where we're located, and how they can sign up, and make it as easy as possible for these parents to figure out that we are the closest and the best opportunity here for their daycare needs and facility. So uh, given another opportunity that I would thought of was for these the two closest schools, I'd love to put in place a a vehicle that we would be leasing to own, and it would be a medium-sized vehicle that can hold about, I would say, 20 children each, and we would take either one trip or two trip depending on how many people are going that day to bring the children back from the school to the facility, to the daycare facility. And this would be make it very easy for the parents as well as the children. They would know exactly where they're going to go right after school and where to line up and where to be. And furthering that, I would like to talk about some weaknesses. The weaknesses that I talked about earlier was probably the amateur workers, and that it's going to be, we're going to have low paid, pretty much starting workers, so we won't be able to really afford the cost of hiring the best, most experienced daycare worker. And given that, I think that like we should absolutely work on training, like I talked about, and make an extensive program for that for anyone who's coming into this facility and this industry. And another threat that I'd like to talk about is the lease that we already talked about. When comparing the two locations, it is a higher cost lease, but I think that the opportunity that we have is massive compared to this lease, and I don't think it's really a risk. I just wanted to mention it just because it is comparable to the lighter lease that is not as expensive. And another risk I'd like to talk about is the lawsuit, maybe from misconduct or an injury that could be possible. And this is why I would like to immediately work on child proofing and making it safe for these children to go to this daycare facility and make it assure the parents that they will be safe and our workers will know exactly what to do to take care of these children. And that's why the reason I thought we should open this facility in the larger city. I'd like to hear your feedback. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you, and thank you very much. Have a great day.